Okay, we are here, but we are just looking for the camera, which I can't believe. Oh, here it is. It's right in front of me. Okay, we're gonna get that set up. We moved some things around because we had a meeting earlier. All right. I think that works. Let's see. Okay. Cool. All right, here we go. I tried to put a little lighting in here. I don't have it like actually set up the way I want it, but that's okay. I think it's a little bit better. And so this is Paul with Freight Connect on day 21, the 21st day of readiness. And that really has resonated with me, that word readiness, being ready to go, ready, available, and all that good stuff. We have been here at day 21, and we have been doing some intentional things to work on the mind, the body, and all that good stuff, the soul. We There's more that always can be done, right? But you have to start somewhere, and that is what we have been doing. So day 21, it's a good thing. I'm just moving a couple things around here. So today, again, I'm not going to be long here, but at any rate, so today there were some things that were going on that we're working on, and I'll just start like with the business. We are moving forward and some developments that we've been working on for the past 6 months or so, 6.5 months. And I'm very, very pleased with it all. It's really, really amazing how it's coming along. There are opportunities that will be coming up in order to really help some people. And I have to believe that because there are people who are really excited about what they're getting into and how we're able to support them in their venture, and to be able to bring some things to them that they weren't aware of, to be able to help them to get on track with some things and really see light at the end of the tunnel. And when I say at the end, I shouldn't even say that. I guess the end of the tunnel is through a tunnel, and then there's the other side. But just to be able to see some light, you know what I mean? To be able to say, okay, either I get this thing in terms of trucking, and I see the role that I play, that enlightenment, and or how I can participate in this trucking game. Um, I see my part. I see why some things are the way they are, and it allows me to move in a more confident way, accept certain things, not to accept things that are bad, but to be able to accept that this is how things work. Maybe even better to say, to understand how certain things work. And then you can get on board in the sense that, okay, that's what it's about. And here's what I have to do. So it takes away some of that, those challenges. And it's only challenges because sometimes some things just need to be demystified, right? And it gives us an opportunity to see expansion, to see growth opportunities. And when you see that, then you start to operate in a different way. You start to think in different ways, right? And sometimes we need to hurt our brain and make our brain adjust in order to see things in a certain way. And I don't mean to see false things. That's not what I mean. Sometimes we have been so regimented. We have done something for so long. We have done the same thing for a long time, or believed a certain thing for so long that that is what we have become. And it doesn't mean that that's where we have to stay. And I'm talking strictly about trucking, and I'm talking strictly about, development with your business and your growth. And then at the same time, when it comes to health as well, you know. Um, so as far as the business goes, there definitely a sacrifice. There's a lot of that that goes on. There's some sleepless nights, and some of that doesn't have to come because you're worrying about anything. It's just that it's because of the effort that you're putting in, you know. And some of these things I speak from experience. And then I take that experience and I put it into some things that I don't know anything about, which means sitting behind a truck, you know, and driving all those miles and all those years and everything that comes with it. But I do have a lot of good people that I talk to and that I've talked to, and who really are inspirations, who know the trucking business, and I'm really grateful to be able to communicate with them. So there are a lot of people out there that I commend you for what you do, and continue to do it, please. And let's work together to teach each other and learn and grow. So, any rate, aside that, today was a good day. Worked with some people today, some clients, and we really moved some things forward. I'm very excited for them, and I always get a kick out of it. And I always learn something as well. Also, I had a meeting today. It was with factoring company, really good meeting. I'm coming to find out it's so fascinating that just business in general. You can read something. I can read something, and then all of a sudden I find myself in the middle of it. I read some news, and when I say in the middle of it, I mean I'm talking to some of these businesses, and I'm talking and finding out more information on the inside, so to speak, and finding out, and I don't know how deeply some of these players are, but I know that they have good information, and so I get to hear that, and I get to um, think based upon that information that I get. And so the things that I do, it's not necessarily based upon what one person says, but what just the way this industry is moving, the way I feel it move, the way I see different parts moving, And so, at any rate, the factoring company, we had a great conversation, had a good meeting, and I learned a lot. And I realized that there are certain things that I need to learn, and I don't mean just about factoring, in regards to percentages and occurrences or reoccurring and things like that, but I mean just how they think, and what the strategy is and why, and what are they trying to accomplish, what they are trying to achieve. I mean, I have one factoring company that I've known, and I think I mentioned it maybe yesterday. I've known for 10 years. I haven't worked with them for 10 years, but when they got started, it was 10 years ago, and they're a big trucking company as well. Um, and they when they got started, which was, I'll just say the names, Trans Am and Trans Am Financial Services. I remember when they started that company, that division, and I was communicating with them, working with them, and they, were trying to get us aboard to be able to provide them with opportunities. We had a brokerage at the time, or working through a brokerage at the time, and I decided I didn't really jump on board. Part of the brokerage did, but I didn't. I should have, but at the time, this is a part of learning, right? At the time, I was really focused in on what I was doing, and out of that came Freight Connect. And but it would have made sense to foster that relationship. I did not, but it would have made sense for me to do that. When I reached out to him today, or like within the past week or so, I couldn't get into anybody beyond just the person that was answering the phone. And that person was said that basically there was no way that I could get a hold of anyone beyond who I was talking to. It just really seemed snobbish, right? Snobbish. And I was like, wow, they have really grown, And so I didn't pursue that anymore. But there was another factoring company that I was communicating with, And then in some kind of way they came up for Trans Am, and I was telling them about Trans Am, and they was like, well, yeah, they there's a merger going on. And I was like, oh, and it was between the two companies. And I was like, oh, we had a conversation about it. So it was really, really interesting and fascinating. And so they were like, maybe that's why. And, I wasn't trying to look for any excuses. What it is what it is. But, just the fact that, you go through one company and then all of a sudden they're part of another company. And, if you're involved, what part do you play? But if you get wholly involved, meaning that you start to really make connections with all these different entities, you can really make some bring some value, in a big way. And I really, really want to be able to do that. So we're talking to quite a few different companies, and having really good conversations, and learning, and growing. And so with that said, sometimes you have to just jump in. That doesn't mean jump in foolishly. You want to be able to have some education while you're jumping in, or when you jump in, then realize, okay, I need some education, and do that, and learn as you go along. I mean, in this whole venture of mine over the past 6+ months, I was like, at one point, I was like, okay, I'm done with trucking, right? Done with carriers. I'm going over to brokers, right? And that's what I was going to do. And then for some reason, something pulled me kind of back. And then it was, I met with insurance company, and it just evolved from there. And I just kept learning and kept learning, and things just started to make sense, started to connect the dots. And that's the key, is you want to be able to connect the dots. You are in you have your business, and you have your business, you have your trucking company. There are things that you can learn, right? And this isn't like a lecture. It really isn't. I'm talking from the heart. I'm talking from what I'm experiencing. I'm experiencing growth within myself. Because obviously, again, I don't know it all, right? But I just connect the dots, and that means even personally. So me going out and doing my runs and talking about my runs, I associate it with business and other things. The consistency. If I'm not consistent with my workouts, I'm not going to be consistent. Or I can see consistency in my workout, and then if I have consistency in my business, I can see similar results, right? But I've got to exercise that consistency. In some areas I might not be as consistent, or whatever it is, but I need to exercise consistency, right? And when I do that, I have to look at it in various areas of my life. And that can be, in personal relationships. It can be business, it can be, like I said, working out. So consistency, someone who for some reason does need to get better at how they take care of themselves, managing that, there has to be some consistency in that, right? Whether they want to get off medicine or whatever that is, and consistency. We can plug that into various parts of our lives. And when we have that in our business, whatever that looks like to you, there should be growth that comes out of that. If I'm out here running and I'm going and I'm like 21 days, and then there's a day where I'm like, I don't feel like it, right? Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. But then I can develop consistency and not going out and doing it, right? So I need to make sure I know what I'm going for, what I'm going after, and put that practice in the right place. So I'm out here today. I get out and I'm like, day 21. I've got to do this, right? So I decide to do it. I'm out here running, right? Did I go out yesterday? I think yesterday was pretty cold, wasn't it? I don't remember. But I went out today, and what I did do, I had my gloves too. I was ready to go. It was 24 degrees today. And it was fine. I was fine. I was good. I've got, it's pretty thick, but I feel good. And I get out there, and I had one glove on, and I didn't have the other glove on. I was working the phone, had my phone. was doing some things and doing a little stretching as well. And I was like, my hand, oh, it feels good. It must feel really nice out then. 24 degrees. Yeah, I can do this. And I didn't have the glove on. And I started thinking, I said, you know what, I'm probably going to pay for that. And I got done with my phone, put the glove on, and I started running. And boy, for some reason, after a little while, my hand started to really feel affected. And it just felt like it was getting colder and colder and colder. I don't know what that's all about. I probably should study that. But you know how they tell you when you go outside, make sure you are not exposed or that you cover up or that you have gloves on or that you whatever, cover yourself because any little bit of exposure in certain weather conditions, it'll hit you real quick. And that hit me. I couldn't wait for the run to be over because I was getting concerned about my hand. Matter of fact, it's a little bit cold. Actually, it's colder than this one right now. But so I don't know how that affects the body, but um, like I say, sometimes you gotta just jump in, you do your thing. But if there is a situation that you run into that doesn't agree with what that it adversely affects what you're trying to accomplish, then we learn from that. And I learned I learned pretty quick that that's not a thing that I'm going to do. I get out there, I have my gloves on, they're staying on until I'm done. Right. So, you get into your business, there's things that you're going to learn. And sometimes, we have to learn in a tough way, and that's okay. We learn, and then next time we do it differently. Right. Sometimes you have to do some research, just like with the factoring company. I'm going to learn some things. There's some things I know I need to learn and do better, and it's not necessarily, again, just learning about factoring, in terms of communicating with certain types of institutions, right? And at certain levels, right? So there is growth in that. And when you are able to do that, as an example with your business, when you're talking to a broker compared to talking to a carrier, a shipper direct, or even a carrier, another carrier, there's different conversations to have. And depending upon what you're trying to accomplish, or even better yet, what are we trying to accomplish, and having that type of conversation and at these different levels, and it's not a thing of where you have to sit back and say, all right, I have to go to school and study this, right? Some do, and that's okay. But it is the idea that there's some place I want to get to, and let me understand that. How can I get there? Right? Just because there's a broker involved, insurance company involved, factoring company, all these things involved, that shouldn't prevent you from achieving the goals that you have. And what I mean by that is this: those entities are there for a reason, right? And if we're able to understand how the players work and your part, you'll see how these pieces play in a different way. You'll understand, and you'll be able to make moves that can get you to where you're trying to get to. And I'm not talking about just those pieces, I mean, even with shippers as well, and with the economy, I can throw in all these different parts, but the thing is, you don't have to be experts at all these pieces. The idea is that things are not always there to block us. They can actually be used as stepping stones. And that doesn't mean because they're an evil insurance company, some kind of way, that's going to get me to the top. That's not what I mean, right? So there is a way to operate in a business way and achieve, and move, have that upward mobility, you know. And two, which is just the way it is, when you are able to do that and figure things out, and then there are others who are not, because it's kind of like this: when you go in one direction and others go in another direction, everyone else is going over here, right? And you're working to figure things out. That's when it becomes lonely. That's when it becomes, that's when it becomes like, you're that individual, that one that's doing things in a different way. And it's not even necessarily that it has to be, it is different, but it doesn't mean it's crazy, right? It just means that maybe everyone else is crazy. Everyone else is doing it in this way. Maybe it's because it's the path to least the path of least resistance, right? That's how you say it. So the path of least resistance. So this is the easier way. And sometimes the easier way can be the harder way. When you have everyone over here, it can be pretty challenging, right? But then when you're over here, there's no one else. Could be lonely, but yet at the same time, there's room. And everybody might not even understand, right? And that even is the beauty of it, because not that you're trying to do something so different, right? You are just operating in a way that, I'll say it, is smarter. That is smarter for that time. So there's many things that like I say, in this transportation business, it's so fragmented, and so many people do so many different things. And it may sound like I'm talking cryptic, but yet, which I kind of am. But the idea is, because we can get specific, we can talk specifics, but the idea is that there is opportunity where we jump in and we learn, and we continue to move forward. Sometimes we get bitten, we learn from that, just like my hand. I definitely did not want to get frostbite, but we get snipped and we learn from it, and we make moves, and we make moves in a productive way and in the right way, and have the right mindset and all that good stuff. So there's a lot of stuff to dig in on that, but I'm gonna leave it at that. So learn and adapt. Grow, jump in, learn and adapt. Be consistent. Just reading something here. I wrote down avoiding frostbites. So we get bit, but we learn from it and adapt. And identifying opportunities. Opportunities are there. As you learn, you will grow. You will see things. You will see things in a different way, and you will see opportunities that other people don't see. I guarantee it. I remember one time I used to look outside and see the clouds. And when I say that, I mean, I'm just not, I don't know if I call it daydreaming, but I would just see things in clouds that not everyone would see. And it was just interesting to me because it was like it never failed. When I was younger, I would doodle, and I would just draw lines on a piece of paper, and then I'd see things, right? And then I just start to outline it, and it turns into a picture. There are things that come up, that people may say or mention, just the littlest thing, and then all of a sudden my mind is exploding with different ideas and different thoughts, whether someone has done it before or if it makes sense or not. It's just the fact of uh, being able to, I guess it's just, I don't know, see opportunities, because there's so many opportunities out there that exist. And sometimes you have to talk to other people to see that. But at any rate, opportunities are out there, and you put yourself out there to learn. Just learn, just open yourself up to it. Acquire learning material. You can learn the same thing over, like someone can teach you something, a thing, and then somewhere else you can learn about that same thing, but you pick it up differently, right? Now I'm going to go to church with you on this one here real quick. So when I was heavily involved in church, we read the scripture, and they would even say it, in the pulpit, that, like, I had one pastor, he would say, "I'm going to come to you this way," and he would do whatever. And then all of a sudden it gets more intense. He said, "No, you don't get it. I'm going to come to you this way." And he come to you another way, and he said, "No, you still don't get it." And he come to you at least 3 ways. He'll even tell you it's going over your head. You know what I mean? It's going over your head. But he come to you at least 3 ways. And I really like that, because it hit different audiences, each time, and it would make more and more sense. And sometimes, and then you can read a scripture. I've read scripture, and I've read scripture years later. It was different. It resonated in a whole different way. And whether that is that I learned more things over the years to the point where I could read that, and the context of it was different, or just that it jumped off the page at me in a different way. You know, it came to life. And so sometimes we can get training, and then we get more training on the same thing, and it just the light bulb goes off, right? So YouTube, we're on YouTube now. I'll be honest with you, all this here, me being on YouTube right now, it was all started off as a real selfish thing, the 21 days, 30 days to readiness. But it so correlates with business. And that was just to try and help me to get my year going, and to get healthier. And so we're continuing this thing. But I was saying about YouTube, there's a lot of information on YouTube, and I say just try to work to back it up. Whatever information you're trying to get. I know people that get on YouTube and they learn stuff, by watching YouTube, but at some point, with stuff that you learn, you really have to dig in deep, and get into some kind of course, even if it's something that you just do on your own in terms of your self-paced course, or have an instructor. And unfortunately, you have to vet instructors as well. And when you do that, you want to make sure that they have what it is that you need, the knowledge, the credentials, and all that good stuff. And how do you go about that? I don't know, maybe someday we'll talk about that. But getting to really know and understand, be able to feel confident. Like with insurance, one of the things I tell you, and I would say this even with factoring or whatever, feel comfortable with the people that you work with, right? When you go out and you get insurance, a lot of people will just go out there and look for the best quote. It's wrong. I'm telling you now. You're watching me on YouTube, and there can be a bunch of people, other people saying the same thing or something different. And should you believe me or not? That's a valid question. But I will say this: I don't get paid for saying this. When you go to get insurance, make sure you like the people that you're working with, and with probably anything else that you get involved with. And the reason being is you want people that are going to tell you the truth. You don't want the buddy yes man or whatever person. You don't want that, or someone that you only hear from once a year. You want someone that knows trucking, understands it, understands you, or at least somebody that you feel confident and comfortable with. Okay. And in regards to business, okay, this is business. It will make a difference. It will make a difference. If you can say, hey, you know what, I'm fine with my guy, I don't have any problems, that's fine. Okay. All right. There's some things that we can talk about, and then you can tell me, well, no, or yes. I do work with my insurance company like that. But there are some things that some ways your insurance company can help you out, right? Can really help you out. And I'm not talking about premium. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about just premiums. Okay. So when you start to develop your team around you, you got to find people that you like working with. And that means that are about your business, not going out and playing golf on the weekend or anything like that, or having a drink with. It's not what I'm talking about. Okay. So I'm done. That is it. So today is day 21. See, can you tell us more about services you offer that I offer? Hey, Eduardo, how you doing? Good that you're here. Services that I offer. Okay, I can do that. It's very interesting that you asked me that, because I was like, uh, purposely not doing that because I'll be honest with you, I don't want to feel salesy, right? Feel like I'm selling anything. Um, because I'm taking on an attitude that I really, really, for me, I'm working to grow, right? I'm really working to grow. I'm really working to grow. Um, of course, Freight Connect, but I'm really looking at growing as an individual, and health wise and all that good stuff. And I felt like this here is something that will definitely commit me and hopefully, other people, something that I can be passionate about. And then with as far as services and stuff like that that I offer, um, yeah, I'm just totally passionate about that. But I just wanted to really keep it in this vein of communicating with people and just let them know what I'm doing, and if it helps someone else, that's great. But since you asked, services that I offer, I'm gonna keep it tight and sweet and short, and the reason being is I want it to make sense. That's purely the reason why I'm going to do it. So what I do is, as you may know, I work with carriers to help them grow their business and develop their business. And with that, we're talking about, yes, having the opportunity to work with direct shippers, and that can look like there's different ways that can what that can look like. At the same time, over the past 6 months, I've been working on developing something I've wanted to do for the past 10 years. And that is developing a place where carriers can come to and they can actually feel like they're getting information that they really need that's going to support them in their business. I'll give you a quick example. Over the years, I've heard a lot of over the past 10 years or more, really more than that, 20 years, 15 years or so. Carriers, they want to grow and they don't know the things that they can do in their business. Some didn't know they could go direct, right? A lot don't know about brokers, have this misconception. When they get into the business, they don't know that, especially about having finances. A lot of people get into the business and don't have the finances, right? And what I mean by that is, your insurance, just the monthly things that can come up, the fraud situations, all these different things. And if you don't have like 6 months money sitting there that can take you through 6 months, it's going to be pretty challenging. It can be pretty challenging. I'm not saying it can't be done, but these are things that you don't know. Along with insurance, as I was talking about with insurance companies, FMCSA, there's ways that you can use them to your advantage, and a lot of people don't know this, right? There's just a lot of things that you can do outside of complaining about brokers that can really help your business. And so the I'll share it with you. I can probably put it in on the website or on the YouTube, put a link to it, but because we have a demo for it, and we have a program where you're able to get this guidance, get this support. So as an example, let's say you're thinking about getting into the trucking business. We're here to help you not necessarily make that decision, but provide you with the information and all that you need to help you make a healthy choice. And when I say healthy, that doesn't mean a yes or no, but that means that if I say yes, you have guidance at that point, right? You can continue to have guidance so that when you are in it, you're not going to feel so alone. You're not going to feel like, really, hey, I got to stop this thing and then maybe start it in a year or two again because I wasn't ready or whatever. Hence, readiness. Does that make sense? That's what it's all about. Readiness is talking about readiness. So you're in it, and we want to be able to provide that support. And I'll give you an example of what that, how we're going about it. I know I've mentioned about going to CDL schools. So I've been reaching out to CDL schools and going and actually making presentations, because the way I look at it is, there were many years ago, I used to work with the youth. I purposely chose the youth versus adults because I think that you need to, you've got to get those kids young, very, very young, probably 4 years old or whatever. But, I was working with 5, 6, 7 on up to teenagers. And I really felt that if they had someone there as a mentor or, to guide them, um, it could make a huge difference in decisions that they make down the road. And that has proven itself to be truthful with a lot of kids that I ran into, didn't have any contact with them for like 5 years or so. And then all of a sudden we meet up some kind of way, our paths cross. And it's just exciting to hear what they're doing and to see how excited they are and excited to tell you what they're doing and for them to let you know that you played a part in their upcoming, And so in trucking, I feel the same. I feel like people who get into trucking, they need some guidance, right? Some support, right there at the beginning. Even if you got started, you're still in it, there's some support that can be provided. And that is what we're all about, is providing carriers, and they can be in the business 5 years, 6 years, it doesn't matter. But at the beginning, give them that guidance that they really need so that everything isn't a surprise, so to speak, right? And I don't mean just guidance like, I don't know, counseling, I guess, but once you get into our system that we've developed and that we're continually to develop, you'll see there's a lot of good stuff in there. We do have a sales section as well that I'm pretty proud of, in the sense that I believe if you go there, you're going to learn. You'll have no choice but to learn, right? Learn how to become successful at developing your business on the sales side, right? And then we also will have, like, every other week we'll have group. That's what we're developing now. We're having group meetings, group sessions, and that will give us an opportunity, the carriers that are involved, and to learn and to be able to grow through this station that we're developing, and just to be able to learn and grow through each other. And there's a lot that can come of that. There's a lot that can come of that. Also, yeah, I'll give you a link. Let's see, where are you at? Is this your? Can I send you? I'll send you. If you shoot me where I can send you an email, I'll shoot that out to you. All right, you can check that out. And but there is let's see. So shoot it out to me. Yeah, so I can send that to you. And but at any rate, I think I'm just rambling now. That's what I didn't want to do. But there is where we work to help develop your business. And then we do have a program that we've had before, and we are able to provide direct shipper leads. And we're doing this in a different way now. And it's all incorporated in regards to the program that we have, the FCC program, where we do have a place where you can go, and we have direct opportunities for you to reach out to for your business. But when you do it, you're going to feel more confident when you do that. And we provide the support for you to be able to do that. And then also, like, some compliance stuff and things like that. We do have an outlet. I don't generally get involved with that, but we do have an outlet for that as well. In regards to, like I said, mentioned about insurance, you can get insurance anywhere, and get insurance Progressive and things like that. I don't know how Progressive operates, but there are insurance companies that I'm involved with that I feel are really good because they understand trucking. They have backgrounds in trucking, and they work to really support you in that way. And I've had conversations with them, so I feel good in that. If I were to refer you, I feel good to refer you to those specific insurance companies. The factoring, again, see, I'm really getting heavily involved to understanding, and what all these different things, these moving parts. And that way, for you, in terms of being able to provide you with guidance, right? I can feel confident in the things that we present to you. And when you do go check those things out, hopefully that it works to your advantage based upon some of these things that I'm saying. One last thing, there's the American Trucking Historical Society, and I meant to go up there today, but I'm going to be up there, and I hope to. They said I could, I'll be able to do some YouTube from there and what have you. But it's such a great resource from the standpoint of history, in trucking. And so I think that's very important for those that are in trucking to know a little history about trucking. I don't know why not, but I think it can be a benefit, and all this stuff isn't to be set up like a classroom, but it is to be to give you a way to grow and to have an advantage over others that choose to go a different way, and that's totally okay. There's different ways to operate in this business, and this is one of the ways. And here I feel that this is something that could that one could take advantage of and really make a difference in their business, if that's what you want to do, if you want to grow. So at any rate, yeah, just let me know, and I can shoot you an email on that or something like that. So at any rate, that is all that I've got. Sorry I got so long-winded on that, but I think that if you go there, check it out, and then maybe we communicate one-on-one, it'll make a whole lot more sense to you as to what we offer. So basically, just a way for your business to grow. I've been doing that for many, many years, but we've finally gotten to a point where we're getting it to where the way I want it, the way I think it should be set up to help businesses, over the road carriers. So, and I mean, when we talk about insurance, we've been talking about ways that you're able to save money, in regards to premiums and stuff like that. I can't promise anything, but we're working on some things to really help in those areas because we see the problem with it, and it's not a bad thing. It's just the way it is. And we see that there can be some things done to probably help lower those premiums, So at any rate, if you want, send me a message and I'll shoot that out to you. Or if I can send it out to this, I'll do that. Okay, that link. Other than that, that's all I got. I hope that you guys have an amazing Tuesday evening, and we're going to get into Wednesday, hump day already for the week. And if you're in those cold areas, man, I hope that the electricity is up and running. It still seems like there's a lot of places. I shouldn't even say a lot of places. There are certain places the electricity is just not back up and running. You've got your Mississippi, your Tennessee, your Kentucky, your Texas, you're talking about over 500,000 people or customers still without electricity. That's a lot. You're welcome. Yeah, absolutely. Just, send me a message, like I said, and I'll get it to you. You're welcome. But there are a lot of people without electricity. And man, I feel for them. And again, it's right there going in through. I was talking to Alabama. I forgot to ask them what's going on in Alabama today. That's where the factoring company is, and they. I don't think that they got hit. I think they're doing just fine. But yeah, you got Louisiana, you got Texas, Louisiana, Tennessee, Kentucky, Virginia, maybe the Carolinas. I think Virginia, I believe. So right in that area, and it is cold, and it is they're without electricity. But the one thing I was thinking about, and I don't know what you guys think on this, this might be a little silly, but to me, I thought about it. I've been in situations where the electricity has gone out, right? Back in the day, a lot of the electrical lines, they were on poles, right? So these poles would move and electric lines would snap, generators and all that stuff would go out, and you would have it would be bad news. A lot of people would be up without electricity. And then they started putting them underground, right? So back then, or when the electricity would go out, because I'm in an area where we have tornadoes, we have storms and things like that, and your electricity could go out. Um, when the weather is warmer, you have to worry about the food, right? You have to worry about all that food that you might have in the refrigerator, because if you keep opening up that ice box, the cold air is going to come out and a lot of that food can spoil, unfortunately. So the one thing I was thinking about is that, the fortunate thing, not to make light of it, but the fortunate thing is that when it's cold, that food is going to be preserved, right? So you don't have to really worry about that in regards to the electricity going out, because that I guess you're going to save some money on electricity at that point, but the food won't go bad. The only thing is then how you're going to heat it up, because people end up, when these storms are coming, people go buy a lot of food, and I don't know what kind of food they buy. If they think about it, like, what if the electric goes out? What are we going to eat? I mean, you don't need the can opener, because you can do it like this. And obviously you're going to have cold, whatever it is, cold beans or whatever is corn, whatever's in that can. And, but would you buy a lot of, let's say, lunch meat? Does that make sense? Because then that way it's not something you have to heat up, like if I bought a lot of meat and I'm going to hunker down, the storm is coming through. And then if I'm raw meat, and if the electricity goes out, what am I going to do? How am I going to heat up that raw meat unless I have a generator or something like that? And if I don't, at least the meat will keep, it should keep. And if it gets so cold, you can probably put the meat outside, as a freezer, but how are you going to cook it? So I guess when people go to buy food, depending upon whether it's it's going to be cold weather that's coming through, or hot weather that's coming, or it's during the hot weather months, then I guess that would determine the type of food you should buy. Because if the electricity goes out and you have food, because there's few food shortages for a lot of people, just people don't have food, whether electricity exists or not. So food should not be taken for granted, right? But when you go to the store, maybe then you should think about how we're going to eat this food, if we're buying all this raw meat and the electricity goes out. So I don't know. That was, like I said, something silly I just thought about, but that's an advantage or a good thing when the weather goes sour during the winter. The at least the food won't sour. That's a good thing. So other than that, again, you guys take care, drive safely, and I hope that you definitely have a great week. And we're almost into February, which means a whole month already in 2026 has come and gone. Well, we're not there yet, but we're close. All right. So enjoy the rest of the month. Think about this too, the end of the month. People are trying to get stuff off their docks. So it's a good time to try and reach out to opportunities, maybe opportunities you haven't talked to, because it is the start of the year. Also, there's going to be a lot of backup. I don't know if you guys got the email on that, or the article we put out on that. This is a time to build relationships, because these people need to move their freight. They will need to move it as the weather gets warmer, and all this stuff that's backed up, orders and things like that. It will impact 30 days from now. It will impact 60 days from now, 90 days from now. You'll hear it in the news, people talking about it, but you be a part of it now. So when they start talking about it, you're a part of the solution. You see what I mean? The news just tells you what's going on now, right? You got to dig, and you got to have your nose to the ground, and you have to be thinking strategically so that you make moves now. Like I'm telling you about with these factoring companies and all this stuff that I'm doing, make moves now so that down the road, you're in position. You're the ones that they call on. You're the ones that they think about. And at the same time, you will be learning how to. So this is some of the stuff I teach you as well. Then and what we do, when you sign up for our program, we teach you about this stuff, and we bring some real world stuff to you. We bring you real accounts, to connect with. And all of a sudden, when you start learning this, you start to see opportunity everywhere, right? And this is you, this is your competition. And you might even help your competition do this, which is great. That's building community, right? But you have an opportunity to do this right now. Readiness, I'm at day 21. Where are you going to be in 30 days from today? You make decisions as to what you're going to do. You know, some people reach out to me, you know, a year later, 2 years later, or whatever the case, and that's totally fine. Totally, trust me. But all I'm saying is that, you know, you have an opportunity to think about those things and start moving and making decisions and things like that that are going to benefit you 30 days down the road, 60 days down the road, whether you're working out physically, working out with your company. That's what we're talking about. We want you to be in business years to come. Retire from this thing, right? Pass it on. So, all right, I'm done this time. I really mean it. All right, you guys have a great evening. Great talking to you guys, and yeah, God bless. And when I talk about, I'm sorry, I know I'm still going on, but when I talk about learning this stuff, I'm still learning the whole YouTube thing. All right, I'm out. Bye bye.